Welcome to my part 2 of Alex Garland's Civil War. In the first video, I discussed the sound design, and if you want to watch that video, there will be a link at the end of this video. But for now, let's get into the topic of what was the message or theme of Civil War. When discussing with my friends their biggest criticism of Civil War, it seemed to be that they didn't understand if it had a theme or a message, and if it did, what it was. And I can see how people may agree with this, as Civil War's message can easily be lost for those who might be looking for a political or deeper message than what the film is saying. And I think it's safe to assume that many people expected a political message, which you'll be hard-pressed to find in the film, with the different factions' politics never even being directly addressed in the movie. And I'll speak on this again as to why I think this was done. But its message being, war is bad, but it will continue, no matter how bad we want it to stop. Honestly, I would say its message is not one that is uniquely profound or even unique at all, though I do think its stance of being not optimistic or pessimistic, but realistic, is something that we don't see too often. If you were looking for a political theme, I hope that this simple understanding of the message made something click, but let's explain why in a more literal and conceptual sense as to why this is the theme. And I think the best moment to realize the theme is when the character of Lee almost directly tells us.
Every time I survived the war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
This moment tells us everything about the message of the film. No matter how many times Kristen Dunst's character showed the world the horrors of war, wars kept happening, even eventually happening in her home in America. And there was no stopping it. War happens and will continue to happen. We know it's bad and we don't want it. The terrors of it have all been shared with us, and yet, here it is, staring into our faces as we watch the movie. This is further shown in the characters of Lee and Jesse, with Jesse wanting to have the same career as Lee, but just starting out. She represents a young, inexperienced Lee, with Sammy even comparing the two of how similar they are. And in the end, when Lee dies, Jesse is there to take her place. It's another reminder of how all this will keep happening again and again. We see the toll of the characters as well with the reflection between Lee and Jesse, with the first battle scene and the ending. In the first scene, Jesse is too afraid to move, as Lee moves around the scene naturally taking photos. Then in the end, during the DC fight, something has finally snapped in Lee. The weight of what has happened has finally taken its toll, and now she is too scared to move as Jesse really photographs the area. The horrific part is once the atrocities of war have finally broken Lee, they toss her aside with a new person to take her place, leaving her behind. And in the end, what real difference did she make? This is the question that keeps getting asked. What difference are these characters making? None. Even by the end of the film, the president is killed, but who rules the country now? This is where the benefit of leaving out the politics comes into play. We are left knowing nothing. Will the new people be better? Will they be worse? We don't know, because it doesn't matter. All this will take place again, somewhere else or somewhen. Nothing can change it. Like I said, this is simply a realistic outlook on the theme that war is bad but will continue, no matter how bad we want it to stop. And it's quite frankly a very difficult theme to swallow. But in a way, I think the director, Alex Garland, is showing us hope, even though it is in a bit of an out-of-the-box way. See, if all this is said about the photographer, then it's also said about Garland. These are his photos of war. He is the one showing us the horrors, and yet he also realizes it won't cause it to stop. But the film was still made. Why? I believe it's in hopes that maybe, somehow, someday, something will stick for someone. And maybe even that small change will cause some events to slow, to at least cause us to stop and think about what we are doing. It's this terrible, hopeful message that yes, war is awful and there's nothing we can do to stop it. But maybe, somehow, we can at least slow it down and realize what it is that we are about to do. But these are just my thoughts on the film's message, and I'd love to hear yours, so don't forget to comment below and let me know them. But for now, and as always, thanks for watching.